We're on the longest run up in this market in 2 years. Are we getting ahead of ourselves?
Yes, indeed. It's tough, and I think the short way of putting it is to say it's tough. The road ahead is also tough and difficult. As you can see clearly, every permutation around what the demand and the supply will look like has kind of not straight and not easy to understand by all. But what is obvious today is that demand will pick up, not to the levels that we will all expect. I do not see demand coming back to the pre-COVID level in anywhere earlier than the end of 2022. That's very unlikely because of several things that are going on today. New habits have come up, irrespective of whether or not we are through with the COVID-19. There are habits that people won't change anymore. Transportation needs have changed. People have learned how to work virtual. People have stopped going to work just by choice, not just by COVID anymore, COVID inspired. So I see a clear decline, particularly in transportation fuel consumption, and especially in form of the aviation fuel consumption. This is very difficult to come back. But the other part of it is that, new developments are coming up in the sense that you're seeing a new middle class coming up in many countries, including my country and West Africa and Africa for that matter. You're seeing greater urbanization that is not foreseen. You see a number of cities are growing, a number of people are coming out of poverty, and that means more and more demand for energy, either in the form of transportation fuel or other forms of fuel requirements. So we see that will balance out for the natural decision that people have made not to come up. So I see a situation where some level of marginal increase at the end of this year, but certainly not beyond.
Okay, but this is pushing the reset in demand or the reattainment of pre-COVID levels out to the back of 2022. So let's just consider some of the risks here. I caught up with Sahil Al-Mazrui, His Excellency, here in the UAE. We listened to him. He had a warning, a very clear warning over to the shale producers: do not pump. Do you expect, or do not pump at will, I should say. Do you expect a lot of shale supply to return at these prices, Mele?
Because the shale supplies clearly won't do well below a $45 oil. We're beyond the $25 oil, so there's really need a great incentive for the shale oil to come back on the deck. But the shale oil producers are also aware that this situation is not long-term. There are a number of capacities that are shut in today from the non-shale sources that can be easily kicked into the market. And if that happens, you lose money. So nobody wants to lose money. So they'll be very cautious. Without any caution by His Excellency, that response from the shale producer will be very, very marginal.
So let's talk about the OPEC Plus deal, Mele, because it's got significant significance for Nigeria. OPEC Plus more or less on pause. Saudi, 1 million barrels unilateral cut. What does the pause button mean for you at NNPC and Nigeria?
It's a very convenient balance for us because, first of all, you may be aware that by mid of April, Nigeria was able to attain crude oil and condensate production of up to 2.49 million barrels per day. That's huge, looking at our capacity. But that now is now down to close to 1.6 million barrels, including the condensate production. A substantial decrease in our capacity, obviously translating to a drop in government revenues. But we're also aware that when you take it to the market and you sell it like water, that's not what you want to do. And obviously the OPEC Plus understanding that to cut the production is the right thing to do because that market balance is required by all, including the consumers. So we see a challenge to our revenue sources, but we see a better picture of getting the best out of this situation by complying with this. So for us as a country, it's a balanced situation. We're very happy to.
Can I ask you there in terms of the compliance? Your number for this quarter, January through to March, is 1.517 million. Mele, are you confident that you're going to remain compliant? You'll hit compliance in this quarter?
Absolutely. We're actually at some over compliance level in November. I'm sure that the data shows that. So we have no difficulty remaining compliant. What we are doing different today is to increase our sources of condensate supply, which is necessarily not curtailed by the OPEC Plus cut. So That's where we're going. We're looking at new assets that can produce more condensate into the market.
What sort of scale of condensate do you expect then to produce this year?
Yeah, today we're at 270 to 350,000 barrels per day.
Okay, and where can I get
between these two numbers?
Okay, compensation cuts. Can you update the market in terms of the compensation cuts, maybe that you've been asked to do, or those that you have delivered, sir?
That's the point I made. We're already in conformity, including the compensation cuts. That's the point I was making.
Okay, my apologies on that. I want to pivot to the big story, which is the new US administration, the new Biden administration. Now, I know you and I have had chats, cups of tea, you give me the odd hat, and you said, look, we're keen to engage with the Biden administration. What does that mean? And what do you think Biden is going to mean for the oil industry?
Yes, for us, we're very conscious of the disposition of the Biden administration, which is not different from what we want to do and where we are going, which is to pay attention to the environment, making sure that oil is a benefit and not a cost to anyone, particularly for developing countries. And there are rooms for doing that, especially by reducing flares in many oil-producing countries, reducing our carbon footprint, which is exactly what we are trying to do today in our country. We have deep engagement with the Department of Energy to support us in carrying out some infrastructure projects that are clearly designed to bring down carbon footprints in our country. So we're very excited to work with them to making sure that those initiatives which are clearly designed to cut down carbon footprints of our business, and also to ensure that in most of these resource-dependent countries, including our own, where attention to infrastructure, getting people out of it is very primary to global peace and security. So we know that the Biden administration will support us in that direction.
Okay, so that frames how you want to engage with the administration. What the market wants to get a sense is from you and the people that you talk to. The Biden administration, do you expect the Biden administration to be as warm to global oil and energy as Trump was last summer?
Yes, indeed, in a different perspective, because I'm very convinced that the Biden administration will be interested in carrying out projects and production that will reduce carbon footprint. And that's what we're doing.